chat.
Okay, thank you.
And if you're at home and you have anything going on, that you'd like me to know about, any injuries or mobility issues, you can leave it in the chat right now, or you can, if you feel comfortable, you can unmute and just let me know if there's anything that you need me to be aware of. And otherwise, I usually give lots of options for modifying as we're doing things, but sometimes it's good to know if you got arthritic knees or can't be on your knees or have a shoulder injury or whatever.
And before we get started,
Or all of the above. So go ahead, Danae.
Sorry, was that Ping or Lynn that shared? Ping?
Ping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ping just arrived, and then we're just waiting on Lynn, and I think we've got like another minute or so, but I have a spot laid out for her, so she can slip right in when she gets here. Okay, and I think we're live streaming now. So anyone or folks who watch this later, welcome. This is the renowned Sterling Silver Club Wednesday evening intermediate yoga class. An intermediate in that we are moving up and down and off of the ground, and but the movements that we're doing we're not doing acrobatics in here. They're very supportive. We're moving slowly. I give lots of information and things to keep in mind as we're moving into our practice this evening. As always, just to make sure that you're honoring your body. So if you have any injuries this evening, or if we move into a shape or a pose that doesn't feel like it's serving you in any way, please come out and honor yourself and make sure you're not pushing through and causing harm. Rest whenever you need to rest, and just kind of moving with kindness as we step into our practice tonight. I think that's all I have for you. As far as my words of wisdom, I'll scatter more as we move through our practice today. I did have one request for just some nice low back care for the evening. Any other special requests or areas that need attention tonight? Don't be shy, you're not the only one. So if you have something that comes to mind, chances are there's like 3 other people that will say, yeah, thank you. Okay, quiet. All right. And okay, so what I think we'll do is begin on our backs, and you can unfold if you would like to have some softness down underneath you. If you like padding, you could take a blanket and unfold it. If you're in the studio, you take your blanket, you unfold it once, and then you unfold it twice, and then you have a nice long blanket that will support you from your head to your pelvis. And when you get down there, if you notice when you lie down on your back that your forehead is a lot lower than your chin and your neck feels like it needs support, you could take a second blanket or just a low pillow. If you're at home working with a pillow, just slide it under your head so that your forehead and your chin are level with each other. And that is a nice place to begin. Let's have our straps nearby. So if you have a strap handy, just bring it nearby, and then we'll arrive on our backs. Do a quick little snow angel. Reach your arms straight back toward the wall behind you, and then sweep them out to the side and down. Make sure you're not going to run into the wall. You're not going to run into your neighbor or your, props or water bottles. And then once you're situated, the arms can rest alongside your hips, the feet planted on the floor about hip width apart, feeling the touch of your feet on the ground, maybe lifting and spreading your toes and settling them down, and feeling the other parts of you that are in contact with the ground right now, the back of the pelvis, the back of your rib cage and shoulders and arms, the back of your head. And a deep breath in, and as you exhale, allowing those parts of you to feel even more connected to the earth, just a sense of settling, of letting go of any holding or protecting or gripping. Feel the ground supporting you. And notice how you are today. How are you doing in this moment? So questions you might ask yourself with your eyes open or closed. You know, how are you feeling in your physical body? How are you feeling energetically? Are you full of energy? Are you feeling a little bit wiped out? Just noticing. And then, how's your mind? Do you feel distracted? Do you feel very present, focused? And as we're noticing how we are, the idea is that we notice with kind eyes. We're not judging. We don't need to be one way or another, but just seeing where we're starting from. And one more question, you know, is there an emotion here today? And even if you say yes, and you could put a name to it, or maybe you feel that there's something here, but there's no word for it yet, just honoring whatever's here and knowing that it might stay with you through your practice, or it might shift and change, but acknowledging what's here. We'll bring our hands to our bellies and start to think about our breath moving in and out, the exhales moving out more completely. And as you draw your next inhale in, can you feel the movement of your belly underneath your hands as the breath fills you? Even if that movement is kind of small, or maybe it's big and the belly really expands up, just noticing the movement of the belly as the inhale moves in and the exhale moves out. You don't need to push the belly or the abdomen, just allowing it to move with the inhale and the exhale. As you're deepening your breath, thinking of just taking up space with it. So we're not pushing the belly into the hands with the inhale, but allowing the belly to expand like a balloon filling and emptying. And then you can move your hands up to the base of the rib cage, which is where your respiratory diaphragm inserts into your rib cage. It's like a big skirt. And as you take your next deep breath in, can you feel like your ribs expand outward into your hands, left and right, up to the ceiling, and also down into the ground? Feel the belly expand as well. And as you exhale, everything settling, narrowing. There's no hurry to the breath. So nice, long, slow inhale, feeling the belly expanding, feeling the base of the ribs spreading in all directions. And that nice, smooth, slow exhale out. And then fingers could move up to the chest, like just under the collarbones or next to the sternum. And as you continue breathing with a nice sense of smoothness and depth, the belly expands, the base of the ribs spread, and maybe under your fingertips, you could feel how the upper chest hinges up toward the face and back down. So the inhale lifts the upper chest and the sternum up toward the face. Maybe a spreading happens, and then a settling with the exhale. So another breath cycle here, just feeling the breath, taking up space, moving you from the inside out. The smooth, steady breath is a way for us to communicate with our nervous system, to let our nervous system know that we're safe, that we can relax. When you're ready, release your hands down alongside your hips and bring your awareness to your pelvis. And as you inhale, think about where your tailbone is. Press your tailbone down into the ground and see if you can feel how your lower back arches away from the ground. And then as you exhale, pull your pelvic rim back down into the ground. Feel how your lower back flattens to the floor. Do that a few times, rocking your tailbone into the ground, the low back arches, and that is as big or as small a movement as makes sense in your body. And as you exhale, pulling your navel down, imprinting your pelvic rim down into the ground, feel your lower back flatten and your low abdominal muscles engage, and go back and forth a few more times, feeling your spine getting kind of pushed and pulled, tractioned, elongated. The lower back arching and flattening. This awareness that between each of your intervertebral joints is an intervertebral disc that's getting pressed and squished and massaged. This is how we are able to get our intervertebral discs hydrated and nourished, right? Moving the spine. Good. And so when you're ready, if you think about your tailbone as 12 o'clock on the face of a clock, could you start to slowly circle around the back of your pelvis, pressing out toward the right side of the sacrum on your way towards 6 o'clock, which would be like the top wide border of the sacrum, the pelvic rim pressing down, and then going around to the other side, the left side of the sacrum and pelvis, on your way back to your tailbone where the lower back will be arched away from the ground. So go around a couple of times. We're going clockwise. If your tailbone is 12 o'clock, we're going to 3 o'clock is the right side of the sacrum and pelvis. 6 o'clock is where the low back flattens to the floor. 9 o'clock is to that left side of the sacrum, and back to 12 o'clock at the tailbone. One more time around this way. See if you can really feel like your abdominal muscles are making your pelvis move around this way. Less movement in the legs. And then when you're ready, reverse. Go counterclockwise. So you're tipping over to the left side of the sacrum on your way to the top of the sacrum, and then over to the right side of the sacrum on your way back to your tailbone. Going around a couple more times in this clockwise fashion. This movement is a nice way to wake up our deep abdominal muscles, to just kind of unkink things. Sometimes we get a little bit stuck. You might feel like it's really easy to go around one direction. The other direction's a little tricky. There's some sticky spots. So kind of feeling your way through, and then eventually settling. And we're going to bring both of our legs into our trunk. So the knees come in, the hands come to the kneecaps, and sending your thighs, sending your knees away from you, straighten your arms, push the legs away. Feel how your lower back arches a little bit, and then pull the legs back in toward your trunk and feel how your lower back rounds into the floor. Do that again. As you inhale, push the knees away. And as you exhale, pull the legs back in toward your trunk. And this next time, as you push the legs away, pull them apart so that your legs spread away from each other, and then draw those legs back in toward your trunk and together. So it's like you're painting 2 circles on the ceiling with your knees. You're just going to keep doing that. The legs come in and together, and then they press away and they pull apart. So yep, so you're just, it's like you're stirring the femur heads around in their sockets. The feet don't come back to the ground just yet. You're just stirring those legs around. And then when you're ready, change directions. Start to stir the legs around the other way. Good. Yeah. And you know, I'm using my hands to stir my legs around, but if you feel like it, you could just use your hip flexors. Your arms don't have to be what's making your legs move around, but they could be. Now, at some point, let's draw the left thigh into our trunk, slide the right leg out nice and long, and roll our left ankle around in a few circles. So your hands are interlaced on top of your left shin. Your right leg is on the ground, so you can put that leg all the way down. You're rolling your left ankle around in a few circles. And then from here, we'll take our hands and interlace behind the back of the left leg, behind the hamstring, behind the thigh bone, and press the leg into your hand so that your arms get pulled taut. And if you feel like your arms are a little short, if you want, you can use your strap around the back of that leg to just feel like your leg is more accessible. So props kind of help us find, reach things if they're feeling inaccessible. When you're ready, flex your left foot, and with an inhale, send your left foot toward the sky so you stretch into the back of your leg, and then point your foot and bend your knee. And we'll do that a few times. So we're flexing the left foot, we're inhaling the leg straight or straight-ish, and then pointing the foot and bending the knee. And so we're starting to mobilize our ankle joint, we're mobilizing the knee joint, and all of the muscles that cross over these joints connect up into the pelvis. They run into muscles that then interface with our spinal column. And so when there's tightness in the back of the leg, it can really affect how we're feeling in our hips, how we're feeling in our lower backs, how we're feeling in our knees, how we're feeling in our ankles. So just feeling this movement for a moment. And then when you reach your left leg into the sky this next time, pause there and roll the ankle around in circles. Paint circles on the ceiling with your toes. Every once in a while, when you think of it, if you just want to take a really nice deep breath in and release a sigh, it's like, here we are. Again, feeling how the ground is supporting you right now. Good. When you're ready, rebend your right leg, plant your right foot on the floor, and your left leg is still reaching into the air. We're going to turn the left leg out. So the left knee and the toes are going to turn out. They're pointing on a diagonal out to the left, and bend the left knee so that your left ankle can cross over your right thigh. So we're setting up for a shape called figure 4 pose. And from here, your left thigh is pressing out and away from you. So ping, release your left leg with your hand. Yeah, let that left leg press away from you. Now, this might be enough hip stretch for some folks. But if you feel like you could deepen this pose, what you would next do is rock your legs in toward your trunk, and using your hands, thread through your legs, catch your right leg with your hands, or use a strap to catch your right leg. So other leg, Jerry, your hands catch your right leg. There you go. Now, the thing is that sometimes you can't bring your legs all the way in because that's just too much stretch. But what you could do is you could set a block under your foot so that you kind of have a little bit of support to come in a little deeper if you want to. Is that better or is that too much, Jerry? Let's get rid of one block, okay? Is that good? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna show folks at home what I just did. So I have, you know, if this is too deep, but foot on the floor is not enough stretch, I could kind of put a block under my foot, and that's just right. You have to, what is it, Goldilocks and the 3 bears? All right, so a few breaths here, taking that breath all the way down into the left hip. Again, when we have hip tightness, it can lead to low back discomfort. It can lead to hip discomfort, all kinds of things. It can affect our gait, or sometimes the hip tightness is from our gait, from how our feet are walking in the world. When you're ready, you can release and set that right foot back down, and the left foot comes back to the floor. And just take a deep breath in and out. We'll do the second side. So before we do the second side, let's take both of our arms and reach them with an inhale up toward the ceiling and then back toward the wall behind us. So just a nice big stretch back behind you, keeping the low back ribs spreading out onto the ground. With an exhale, snow angel your arms out and around, and rock the right leg into your trunk and give it a hug. And slide your left leg out nice and long and active. Imagine you're standing on your left foot. So you want to stand evenly on the big toe ball, the pinky toe ball, and the heel. And then rolling that right ankle around in a few circles. And enjoying a few breaths here. Drawing that thigh into the trunk can be a really nice release for the lower back. If you have low back tightness, you can feel how just flexing this deeply at the hip releases or elongates the muscles of the lower back. So from here, the next thing we do is take the hands underneath the right hamstring. Or use a strap if you feel like you're having a hard time reaching your right leg. Use a strap and just take that strap and thread it right behind the back of your thigh. Press your leg into your strap or your hand so that the arms get pulled taut and the knee is a little bit more stacked over the hip. And then flex your right foot and inhale, lead with your heel to straighten the leg. And then point the foot, and with an exhale, bend the knee and go back and forth. See if you can coordinate your movement with your breath, inhaling toward a straight position and exhaling toward a bent position. You know, the other thing this particular movement is good for is if you have sciatica, if you suffer from sciatica. Sciatica is when there's this huge nerve that runs from your spine, it passes through the sacrum and runs down the back of your leg all the way to your foot. And sometimes that nerve can get pinched by either your bones or by tight muscles in your hips. And it can be really painful. This movement we're doing right now helps to release those muscles and floss that nerve a little bit. So the next time you reach your leg into the sky, pause there and let's roll the right ankle around in a few slow circles. Nice deep breaths in and out, getting that ankle moving. And then when you're ready, let's rebend the left leg. So the left foot, plant that left foot on the floor. Turn the right leg out. So if you had a knob on the ceiling, you would be turning that knob clockwise with your whole right leg. The right ankle crosses over your left thigh. And then before you move into the pose here, take your right hand to the outer right leg. The outer right leg. So there's the inseam of your leg and then there's the outseam of your leg, this outer right leg. And press your leg into your hand. Press that right leg out. And then when you're ready, keep pressing that leg out and rock your legs in toward your trunk. You're gonna thread your hands under the left leg, like you're threading a needle, or use a strap, or set your left foot onto a block. And then take a few breaths here. So the outer right leg is pressing out. Is that enough of a stretch, or is it your knee that's bothering you? Yeah. The knee. So if you stay right here and just press that leg out toward me, is that enough? Okay, perfect. Couple more breaths here. Imagine your lungs went all the way down into your hips. How would that change your experience of the sensation of stretch in this pose? And with the exhales, what could relax and release? Good. And then when you're ready, releasing and setting the left foot down and the right foot down. And we're going to open the arms. If you reach your arms straight up toward the ceiling and think of some really nice energy moving through those arms to the fingertips. And then open the arms out on a perpendicular line to your trunk. So there's this really nice sense of length from your heart through the arms to the fingertips. The arms are opening wide. And if you need to adjust so you don't run into your neighbor, do. And then take your feet and plant them a little wider than hip width apart. So you're thinking about reaching from the front of your heart down the front of the arms to your fingertips, and from the back of your heart down the back of the arms to your fingertips. So there's some nice energy moving through the arms, and also draw your shoulder blades down your back a little bit. And we're going to do a gentle twisting movement. So it's as big or small as needs to be in your body. We're going to windshield wiper the legs to the left. So you're rolling to the outer edge of the left foot, the inner edge of the right foot, and your front hip bones will turn to the left. Now, turn your head to look to the right, over that right arm. So we're twisting the whole spine and all the way up into the head. And then inhale, bring everything back to the center. And with an exhale, the legs windshield wiper to the right. The hips turn to look to the right. Your gaze rolls to the left, and you're reaching actively through the arms to the fingertips. And then inhale, come back to the center. So keep going, feeling how we're getting some really nice internal and external rotation into the hips in their socket. So this is really good for lubricating the hip joints, mobilizing the hip joints. We're gently giving the spine some rotation. So as the legs spill to the left, that right hip will float off the floor a little bit. The spine is getting gentle rotation and feeling how this is a little bit of a heart opening movement. If you're reaching down the length of the arms to the fingertips actively, there might be a little stretch across the front of the chest and into the arms and into the hands. A little release through the muscles that turn the head. Okay. And then when you're ready, we're going to roll all the way over onto our left side. The whole body rolls over onto the left side. We'll press the floor away with the right hand and make our way upright. Slowly, so we don't get dizzy because we've been on the floor on our backs for so long. All right, how's everybody doing? Okay. All right. So we'll need a little knee padding. So you might, if you had unfolded the blanket, fold it back up in half so that you have a little padding for your knees, but the blanket isn't taking up the entire yoga mat because you want to have some sticky, sticky traction for your feet. This is a good time if you have your socks on still to take socks off so that you don't slip around and so that you can move your toes, unless you don't want to take your socks off, and then you don't have to. Okay. All right. So let's come to tabletop position. Your hands are underneath your shoulders. Your knees are underneath your hips. And there's maybe a blanket under your knees, but otherwise that's what we've got. Does anybody have wrist issues and you're not able to be on your wrists? Options would be to be on your knuckles instead, or to put a couple blocks down for yourself and you could be on your forearms, or sometimes it's just enough to roll a thick roll up with your yoga mat and elevate the heel of the hand, and that can be helpful. So lots of options. From here, let's move our spines. So from tail to crown on an exhale, we're going to move one vertebra at a time to cat back. So this is a flexed spine. If you have osteoporosis in your spine, and that's a nice option instead of cat back would be just to press back to prayer pose, and that's a gentler flexion. Okay, now from cat back or from prayer pose, we're going to move to dog back, lifting the tail and working one vertebra at a time through the length of the spine into spinal extension. So back and forth a few times, tucking the tail, rounding, flexing the spine with your exhale, and inhaling, lifting the sit bones and the tailbone and moving one vertebra at a time into spinal extension. We talked earlier about how when we move our spine, that's how we nourish our intervertebral discs. These movements we're doing, they're going to be as big or as small as feels appropriate in your body. Okay, so just be aware. If you need to make the movement smaller than mine or bigger than mine, please take care of yourself. Now, at some point, let's find neutral. So we're going to find a place where the back of the head, the back of the heart, the low back ribs, the back of the sacrum are all on the same plane, but you have a little bit of a lumbar curve. You're not rounded in cat back. From here, think about trying to friction the yoga mat toward your legs with your feet. So like another way of thinking about it is trying to pull your armpits toward your hips. What I'm trying to get you to do is draw the shoulder blades out of the ears and wake up your mid back and under armpit muscles for some stability. So from here, can we slowly slide the left leg back, tuck the toes under, feel your quadricep engage, and the pelvis is nice and level with the ground, and we're going to lift the left leg off of the ground, trying not to tip the pelvis. So as you lift the left leg, can your pubic bone and sternum stay tethered together so it's not coming from the lower back? And then lower that leg down, bring the knee back underneath you. Take your right leg and do the same thing. Just go really slow, slide it back. See if you can keep your ribs and your pelvis nice and quiet. Tuck the toes under, feel the quads engage, and then feel your hamstrings and gluteal muscles engage to lift that right leg up. Good, and then lower it down and bring the right knee back underneath you. Go back to the left, slide the left leg back, tuck the toes under, Feel the front of the leg engage and then feel the back of the leg engage. The left leg lifts. Now, can you add the right arm reaching forward? And take a couple of breaths. So opposite leg, opposite arm, right arm, left leg. And always you can say, no, thank you. If you need to keep 3 points of contact with the earth, that's fine. Good. Bringing hand and knee back to the ground. Second side, right leg slides back. Toes tuck under. Inhale. And then exhale, lift that leg. And then maybe inhale, reach the arm. It doesn't have to come all the way up alongside the cheekbone. It could be in front of the face. Thinking about back of the head, back of the heart, back of the pelvis, all on the same plane. Good. And then bringing hand and knee back to floor. One more time, different arm movement. Left leg goes back, toes tuck under, left leg lifts up. This time, the right arm pulls back into shoulder extension. So it's back alongside the trunk. See if you can keep the front of the shoulder from rolling toward the floor. See if you can keep the front ribs and the front hips tethered together. Take another breath here. And then hand and knee back to floor. And one more on the second side. Right leg slides back, toes tuck under. Inhale. Lift the leg with your exhale. That'll help you find your abdomen to stabilize. And then pull the left arm back. Think about rolling the front of the shoulder away from the floor and finding the tricep to straighten the elbow. And then all of that with the front and the ribs and the front hips staying connected. Good job, everybody. Hand and knee back to floor and sliding into prayer pose if that feels like a resting pose for you. If there's a different shape that sounds better to you, please be my guest and take it. Maybe just sitting upright or standing on your knees or something, whatever sounds good to you. All right. Now, we're going to take a half dog next. So I'll show you what that looks like. We're going to be in tabletop pose. The hips stay right over the knees. They don't shift forward or backward of them. The elbow creases are going to spin toward the thumb and the index finger. So we have this nice external rotation in the arms. From here, we're going to take the arms and reach them forward, and the hips stay over the knees. So there's sort of a pushing down and sending the floor forward and the sit bones tipping up and reaching back, but we're keeping the front ribs collected and trying not to sink into the shoulder joint heavily. So it's a nice shoulder opening. It's a nice way to lengthen and traction the spine. I'm going to come out of the pose. I just want to see how it's going in the room. Looks good. Ping, walk your hands forward more, but keep your hips where they are. Good. Keep going forward, Ping. Good. Nice. And then Janet, collect your front ribs into your body here. Yeah, and the hips shift back. Good, yes. There we go. Yeah. All right, last breath here. Sue, collect your front ribs in a little bit. Yes, and then gazing back between your legs. Okay, walk your hands in, and then let's walk the hands all the way in. And if it's reasonable, can we stand on our knees? Is that okay for everybody in the room? Okay, good. We're just giving our wrists a break. Doing okay? Does anybody need air? Because I can turn air on. It's like this winter season, we have the radiators going, and so then we sometimes need air. Okay. All right, so we're standing on our knees, and we're going to do a little bit of shoulder movement here. Okay, so when you're standing on your knees, feel your gluteal muscles engaging. So right at the base of the seat. When the knees are bent this way, it's a stretch for your quads. And when the quads are tight, it can kind of pull the pelvis into a hinged position. So we want to engage the glutes and the low abdomen here. And then let's bring our fingertips to our shoulders. And the elbows come toward each other. And then they go up, back and around. So we're making circles, and mine are very noisy circles. My apologies. Good. Crackling is not something to be worried about. Our Joints have lots of textures as we get older. Just make sure you're not moving into sharp pain, okay? But really, this is a nice movement. It stretches our pectoral muscles, the muscles that cross over the front of the chest, and it activates our rhomboids. It gets our scapula moving on our back. These are all really good things. Good. And then go the other direction a few times. While we're doing this, where's your head? Can your ears be over your shoulders instead of your head forward of your shoulders? Good. All right, and then pause. Take your right leg, and if this is reasonable, you're going to take your right leg and you're going to open it out to the right. If that's not okay, let me know, and I've got options for you. So I'm not mirroring you, obviously at home too, right? So everybody doing okay, bearing weight on one knee? Okay. So again, think about a little engagement at the base of your left glute to keep the front of that left hip open, some engagement in the low abdomen, the ribs stacked over the hips. And we'll take the left arm up into the sky, okay? And then the right hand can come to the low front ribs and just brush them down, because when the arm goes up, sometimes the ribs fly up like a lampshade sort of tipping up. We want to keep them down, okay? All right. And from here, we're going to find a side bend, and you come as deep as feels reasonable in your body. So Jennifer, good. So your right forearm is going to come to your thigh, and that left arm just comes up alongside the cheekbone. Now, if the arm feels like it's too long for you, you could also bring your hand behind your head, which is actually kind of a nice thing to do, because then you can push your head into your hand, bringing your head back in line with your spine. I recommend it. And then if you want to re-extend that arm, go right ahead. Take a few more breaths into that left side body, firming the right foot down, firming the left shin down, feeling that left hip plugged into the socket. Ping your hand behind your head. So behind your head. There you go. And then push your head into your hand. Watch me. There. Oh, got it. All right. And then re-extend the arm. And then when you're ready, everybody, we're going to activate the muscles that we were just stretching. Feel how your side waist muscles will pull your ribs back down to your pelvis and bring you upright. Those are your obliques. Release your left arm down. Bring your right knee down underneath you. And let's take the left leg and open it out to the left when you're ready. Did everybody do okay with that? Okay. All right. So right shin firms down, engage your right gluteal muscle, so that what you don't want to end up feeling like is that you're in that big hip hinge here. So you engage your gluteal muscles and your low abdomen to bring that pelvis more upright. Does that feel okay in everybody's body? All right. So front ribs in line with the front hips. We're going to take the right arm up and just be here for a moment. Think about lengthening up the inner right leg up the right side of the spine through the crown of the head. Think about your arm not starting in its socket, but actually it starts at the back of your pelvic rim with your latissimus muscle. So it's nice, long body. When you're ready, right side body lifts up and over the left side body. The left forearm comes to the thigh. Here we are. Now, if you like that self-adjustment, bring your right hand to the back of your head and move the back of your head into your hand. The idea is to pull your head back in line with your spine, and then re-extend that arm and just breathe into that right lung. Now, again, if you have low bone density in your spine, you might be doing, the movements that we do where we're flexing the spine, you might make them a little more subtle. So not as big, not trying to collapse into the left waist. When you're ready, wake up those right waist muscles. Pull your right ribs to your hips to pull yourself up. Good. And then bring the right arm down. Bring your left knee back down underneath you. Good. All right. And let's bring our hands back to the ground. So we did a half dog. We already did a half dog today. So we're going to do full dog next, which involves our hamstrings and the backs of our legs. What we want is for the elbow creases to spin forward, the toes tuck under. We want to maintain this little curvature in the lower back. And so it might involve keeping your heels lifted or your knees really bent. And just watch me for a second. So I'm going to come up. Now, see how I'm able to keep this nice long diagonal from the back of my head to my tailbone? If I'm in a hurry to get my heels down, my sit bones that are attached to my pelvis are going to pull my pelvis down, and look what happens to my lower back. You see that? So if I let my knees bend, then I can lift my sit bones back up and my spine finds its neutral curves, and then I can really get long. So anyway, thanks for watching the demonstration, but see if you can find that in your body. So we're going to spread all 10 fingers out, roll those elbow creases toward your thumb and index finger, toes tuck under. There's a little curvature in the lower back. We're going to see if we can maintain it. Lift the knees off the ground. Think about sending your yoga mat forward as you send your hips up and back and away from your hands. Nice, Kelly. Gaze back between your feet. With your next inhale, bring your knees back to the ground. And with your next exhale, take prayer pose. Your chest comes to your thighs, your sit bones to your heels. And so we'll keep going. We're going to inhale back to tabletop pose, toes tuck under. And exhale back to down dog. See if you can find that shape again. Good. And then inhale back to your knees and exhale back to prayer pose. Let's do 2 more of those. Inhaling, pull yourself to tabletop, tuck your toes under. Exhale, shift back to downward facing dog. Inhale back to your knees. Exhale back to prayer pose. Good. Last one. This time when you get to down dog, stay there and take 3 to 5 breaths. So building a little bit of strength and stamina. Good. Thinking about sending the sit bones up and back. Holding that shape for a little while. Moving the tops of the thighs back toward the wall behind you, staying with a nice, smooth, steady breath. And then when you're ready to rest, bring your knees down, take a child's pose, take a prayer pose, or sit back on your heels or sit cross-legged, whatever feels like a nice resting option for you. Good job. All right. Now from here, let's come forward, and I think we all have blocks. We're going to grab our blocks and place them on our yoga mats. Kelly, do you want me to turn that fan on in the back? Would it be nice to have more air going? Okay. Yeah, let me get it. I can do it really quick. Yeah, it's nice. Air is nice. There we go. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, that should just oscillate. Okay, so from here, we're just gonna open up the front of the hips a little bit. So right now we have some blocks, they're under our hands. We're still on our knees. We're gonna move the block that's under our left hand a little closer to the block that's under the right hand. And then we're gonna take the left leg forward into a lunge. So we just got that block out of the way so that the foot could come forward, and it may have been that your foot came almost all the way forward. You can grab it and help it all the way forward. So your foot is in line with your knee, is in line with your hip. And then bring one block on either side of that foot. So you've got a block to the left of it, a block to the right of it, and stand them up nice and tall. Good. So stand them up nice and tall, especially if you have a lot of hamstring tightness. And it would be nice to not be so deep into this pose here. From here, we're going to allow that left knee to bend. It can pass the ankle, so it's a little bit of dorsiflexion. And we're letting the pelvis shift forward toward the front foot so that we stretch into the front of the right hip. Is everybody feeling that? Okay. A little bit of engagement in the right gluteal muscle, little low abdominal engagement. Now, if it's reasonable, can you pull your hips back and lengthen your spine over your left leg? You don't have to straighten it. Just look for a nice stretch through the back of the leg. It's there somewhere, right? We don't have to go too far. It's there. And then when you're ready, rock back forward, rebend that left leg and come into the hip opening in the front of the right hip. Good. And then pull the legs back or pull the hips back. So it's like exhale and we're stretching over the left leg. And as you inhale, you're rocking forward and finding a low lunge. Ping, see if you can move your left foot forward more so that your hips can shift forward more. Let your left knee bend even more. Yep, see, move your left foot forward even more. Keep wiggling, 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 wiggling. Keep that foot going, going, going. Everybody else keep rocking. Good, now Ping, let your hips shift more. Good, and then pull back. So we're just gonna go back and forth a couple more times. So a lot of times we get tightness at the front of the hip joint, which can then, of course, lead to low back discomfort. The next time you find your low lunge, pull your hips back, bring the blocks inside of that front foot, bring that left knee back around and underneath you. That's good, practicing some nice hip mobility there. Move the blocks across to the left and take the right leg out and around. See if you can swing it around. There we go. And then one block on either side of that front foot. So you want the front foot, the right foot, to be far enough forward that you can bend the right knee and actually shift your hips forward and stretch into the front of the left hip. It might be kind of a subtle stretch. It doesn't have to be really, dramatic. When you're ready, exhale, pull the hips back, lengthen your spine over the front leg, find a little stretch, and then come back into that low lunge. Going back and forth. Now I'm trying to be really light on my arms. Shoulder blades relax down my ears. So my abdominal, my core is supporting my spine. I'm pushing the floor away with my right foot, pulling those hips back. Couple more times back and forth. Good. And then this time, when you come into the low lunge, what we're going to do is practice coming into a high lunge from here. So we're going to tuck our back toes under. And I want you to figure out how to get your right heel right underneath your knee. So it's not behind your knee anymore. It's right underneath it. Your shin bone is vertical. And your blocks are on either side of that front foot. And the back toes are going to tuck under. And then we want to push down with the right foot and lift that back knee off the ground. So we're pushing the floor away. We're using some nice leg strength. Sue, you might have too long of a stride. So bring that back foot forward a little bit. Yep, get your right knee over the heel. Now from here, everybody, can you rock on that back foot and then bring your back leg next to the front leg and then unhinge all the way up to stand. That was like a lot of stuff we were doing, isn't it? And then release your arms down. Now we took the left leg and brought it forward. So now we need to take the right leg and step it backward. So let's inhale the arms into the sky. How am I doing here? We're doing okay. With an exhale, bend the knees, hinge the hips. With a flat back fold forward, find the blocks. Can the right leg stride back into a high lunge? There we go. Good. So the quad is engaged. You're pushing the floor away. The pelvis can be higher than the front knee. The three corners of that front foot are on the ground. The shoulders are out of the ears. Can we do that again? So we're going to kind of rock on that back foot and then bring the right leg next to the left leg. You're in a chair pose and unhinge and stand all the way up. Good. And are you ready? Hinge, go through chair pose, hands to blocks. Take your left leg and stride it back to your high lunge. Left leg goes back. Good. And then rock, and we're going to do it again. Left leg comes forward. You're in chair, corners of the feet grounded, unhinge. Up, inhale. Good, go back down, hinge into chair pose. Take the right leg and stride it back. Good, one more time back and forth. Step forward. Stand all the way up, unhinging from the hips and the knees, inhaling. And then the knees bend, so the hips hinge. It's like you're coming into a chair. And then the left leg goes back. Now this time, let's see if we can find a little balance. Are you ready? So we're in a high lunge. Corners of the feet are grounded. You're pushing the floor away. If you think about a plank pose, all of your core musculature is engaged. Can you lift your fingers off the blocks? Okay, that might be enough. Can the arms come back into extension? Good, the head is in line with the spine, that back leg nice and strong. Could, and you can say no thank you, but could the pelvis come upright? And the arms could come into the sky, or they could stay on the hips, and all of these are just options. And if you feel a little unstable and you need a second, take a second and then try it. Good, let's come back down. Back leg steps forward. When you're ready, unhinge, inhale, stand all the way up. Exhale, back down, like you're sitting into a chair, hands to blocks, right leg strides back. So find your foundation first. Think about the three corners of your left foot. The back foot, the toes are pointing straight forward, the heels in the air if possible. And the first thing we're going to play with is fingers off the blocks, maybe. Arms pulling back into extension, maybe. Maybe the pelvis coming more upright. If the back heel needs to come down, that is totally fine. Arms might reach into the sky. Good, and then coming all the way back down. Right leg steps forward. We hinge, unhinge all the way back up. Extended mountain pose, inhale, and hands to heart with an exhale. Feel your thumbs just above your sternum, just above your heart. Maybe you can feel your heart under your thumbs. If you get really quiet, feel your breath into your rib cage and your belly. Good. And then just releasing the arms down. How did we do? Is it okay? We got kind of toasty. That's okay. We're gonna play with a balance to start to wrap up here. We'll play with tree pose. So a few things about balance and standing on one leg. If it's helpful to have a wall nearby, there's two ways the wall can help you. You could stand, we'll start on the right leg. And so if you need a wall nearby, the wall would be right next to you so that you could maybe put your fingertips on the wall. But the other way walls can be helpful is if you're feeling kind of wobbly and you're trying to work with a gaze point, but your gaze point is really far away, bringing your gaze point like 6 inches in front of your face can be incredibly helpful for balance. So feel free to move around if you'd like to. To begin with, maybe even just step off of your yoga mat so that you're on solid floor. And pick a gaze point around the room. And let's be in mountain pose before we move into a one-legged balance. So let your weight shift to the balls of the feet. Let your weight shift back into your heels. See if you can find a place between the balls of the feet and the heels where the weight feels sort of centered. Maybe a little more weight in the heels. Good. Feel your pelvis. Imagine it's a bowl of water. That bowl of water could tip forward. So can you feel what that does to your lower back? Kind of scrunches it up. It could tip backward. Sometimes I pretend I have it's on a wheel. I'm cranking my pelvis backward. The water would spill out behind me. What we want is that level pelvis. We have a rib cage. The ribs are attached to the spine. If you think of the ribs as a lampshade, the lampshade could be flipped up and then that light would be shining out in front of you. The lampshade could be flipped down in front and up and back, and the light shining back behind you. We want that light to go straight down, the lampshade balanced over the level pelvis. Our ears, Jennifer, Todd and I were just talking about this. Her physical therapist is having her work on pulling her head back over her spine. This is for all of us. Ears over shoulders so that our cervical spine stays happy, okay? And the chin is level. So we have this plumb line from ears to shoulders to hips to ankles. And we're gonna bring our hands maybe to your heart and shift your weight onto your left leg, but see if you can stay nice and level through the pelvis. Then come to your right tippy toes. The toes are still on the ground. Did you, when you came to your right tippy toes, did your left hip buckle out to the left? Could it stay plugged in without asking your right lower back muscles to do that leveling off for you? All right, externally rotate your right leg. Keep the hips pointing forward. Gaze is straight ahead on whatever gaze point you've found. My toes are still on the floor here, but I'm going to pull my right foot into my inner ankle. And for any of you, if you want to pull that foot up higher up the leg, you're welcome to. And if you need a wall to put your fingertips on, great. Or if you want to play with that really close gaze point, just turn to face the wall so that the wall's right in front of your face. Arms could reach into the sky. As they go up, did your lampshade flip up in front? Breathing and allowing for wobbliness. It's good. It's helping our brains make that neurological, neuromuscular connection. Our brains are searching for center. They're trying to talk to our muscles. Very strengthening. Good. And then when you're ready, hands to heart, 2 feet on the floor. Good job. And shaking that leg out a little bit that you were just standing on. Anybody else feel a little toasty in the foot and the hip of the leg that you were standing on? It's so strengthening. Okay, second side. So I won't go through it as slowly, but just think about ears are over shoulders, are over hips, are over ankles. If you dropped a plumb line for my ears, it would line up with my ankles. My pelvis and ribs are stacked. Hands can come to heart. We're shifting onto the right leg. We're keeping that femur in its socket so it doesn't drift. Come to your left tippy toes when you're ready. And then the left leg is going to externally rotate. Remember when I was having you press the outer leg into your hand? It's that same movement that we did in figure 4 pose. And then your foot pulls into your ankle. And you're welcome to pull your foot up to your shin or to your inner thigh. I'm staying low. You can do whatever you want. Arms can reach into the sky. They could reach out to the sides. They could stay at the heart. If you're feeling really balanced and steady, see what you could do to throw yourself off balance. Like turn your head, challenge yourself. Because again, we want to keep strengthening that neuromuscular connection, our body figuring out where it is in space. Where's our center? Good. And then hands to heart and 2 feet on the floor and giving your hips a little shake. Nice. All right. Let's come back to our yoga mats. Come to the top of your yoga mat. Bring your blocks alongside your feet. Let's try this. Watch this. I think this is how we'll get down. You get to pick which side you want to go with. I'm going to bend my knees. I'm going to hinge my hips. I'm going to find my blocks. I'm going to step my right leg back, but then watch. What you could do if you want is move the blocks out of the way, bring your hands to the floor, and see if you could step back to down dog. You could say, no, thank you, Katie, and just bring a knee down and then bring the other leg back around and then get to down dog, right? So see where you'd like to go. But when you're doing down dog, make sure you're not doing down dog on tall blocks because they can be a little bit tippy. So just, yeah. But medium height blocks are great for down dog. But taking one last down dog, take a couple of breaths. Good. And then bring your knees to the floor And one last prayer pose, if that feels like a good shape for you. And then we're going to roll onto our backs for Shavasana, a little bit of quiet and stillness. A nice support for Shavasana. I'll show you. I'm going to put two of my blocks right up against each other. And then I'm going to take one of my yoga mats, or excuse me, yoga blankets, and I'm going to roll it up into a log. I'm going to put that on top of my blocks. And then I'm going to put the back of my knees over that so that I have this really nice support. So again, kind of a sweet support for lower backs that have been a little cranky. And then if you need that second blanket underneath your head, you can stick it underneath there. Or if you just want some softness, you want to unfold that blanket so you're on a soft surface. Do whatever you'd like, but here's where we're headed. And if there's anything else you need before we settle into Shavasana, into this final relaxation, please know you are always empowered to take care of yourself. You know your body best, your nervous system best. So if you need one last shape before relaxing, please take it. Once you find yourself in this settled, relaxed, reclined position, a nice deep breath in and letting it go. And letting anything go, just any tension you might still be holding in the body. This is a nice time to do a little body scan, which is also a sweet thing to do when you go to bed at night. Just start from your feet. Let your awareness travel up the lower legs, to the upper legs, and into the hips and pelvis, searching for any clenching or holding or tension that you could possibly let go of with your next exhale. Traveling with your awareness up into the abdomen, into the spine, the low back, the upper back, the neck and shoulders, and noticing if there's any holding, gripping that you were unconscious of, that you're suddenly conscious of. And a deep breath in, and with the exhale, can it release? Can your jaw release? And the muscles behind the eyes, the root of the tongue. And allowing the breath to move however it wants it now. Feeling the belly rising and falling, or noticing the coolness of the inhale and the warmth of the exhale leaving you. The skin between the eyebrows smoothing, spreading. Nowhere else to be. Your next inhale, a deeper breath in and feeling the lungs fill, expand, the ribs expand, the belly lift, and settle as the exhale flows out. Feeling into your fingers and into your toes and introducing movement wherever else it would feel nice. And when you're ready, one leg at a time, drawing into the trunk and giving those legs a hug. And you can pick an arm and just reach it back alongside your cheek and roll toward it. And then that arm will be a pillow for you as you come onto your side. And you can just rest on your side for a moment, taking a couple of breaths. We have a squeaky fan back there. Sorry, Kelly. Using another hand to press the floor away and help yourselves up to a comfortable seat. And a comfortable seat, you know, use what you've got. If you want to sit on your blocks, if you want to sit on that blanket roll, sometimes a little extra height underneath the hips can really bring some ease to the pelvis coming into that upright level bowl of water position, which supports all of the natural curves of the spine. So height helps slide it underneath yourself, and then just feel around for that sense of center, the level pelvis, that the lampshade balanced over the bowl of water, that the head moving back into its imaginary headrest, the chin level and the ears over the shoulders. Let's inhale and draw the shoulders up into the ears, draw them back and let gravity have them. Exhaling. And with our next inhale, rolling palms to the heavens and bringing them together in front of the heart, bowing perhaps inwardly and just smiling at yourself. If that doesn't feel silly, giving yourself a little smile, little inner smile at least. Thank you for setting some time aside to move and breathe and be in your own kind presence. Thanks for being here, everyone. Namaste. And folks at home, thanks for being here.